We know Tom Breevort is taking over as the senior editor of the X-Men line. He's going to be the head of X, and apparently he's offered this job to everybody, including like Brian Michael Bendis. We know Remender was in there, and a lot of people. They've all turned it down, and we finally ended up at Gail Simone. Doc, you are the X-Men aficionado himself. X-Men is the reason that you're still a lifelong comic book fan, and I imagine you're more excited than anybody right now.
Gail has a little bit of history in the X office, but it's on very, very tangentially related books. She did Deadpool and got it canceled. Gail I've never been a big fan of hers.
The last thing I remember Gail Simone doing in X-Men was like a Domino miniseries that I don't think anyone even remembers at this point, and it wasn't that long ago. Now, some people might be wondering, Wes, where is this all coming from? Marvel Comics is previewing its Free Comic Book Day 2024 titles, including a look at next year's big Avengers crossover and what could be our first hint at what's to become of the X-Men following the end of Krakoa. Gail Simone is listed as a co-writer of Free Comic Book Day Blood Hunt X-Men #1, leading to the apparent conclusion that Simone's contributions will be on the X-Men side in a story that Marvel has only revealed will be about Jubilee, and which will set up the next era of X-Men. And I have talked to a few people who have confirmed Gail Simone will be writing the X-Men office, and she will likely be writing like the flagship book. Just when you think like the X-Men can't get any lower, when it can't get worse, like you do always get worse news.
Jerry Duggan was already a bit of a low watermark. Going with Gail as the head writer, this reeks of absolute desperation. This is a poor choice, but it might be their only choice at this point. And I'm leaning towards it being their only choice because she's the only one dumb enough to take the job.
Well, she's also one of the few people that's probably dumb enough to think what they were doing during the Krakoa era was good. Her writing sensibilities, especially as of late, the last, 8 years or so, are very much in line with the Leah Williams and the Tini Howards of the world, where you write really bad stories that no one wants to read. And that's why she's fallen from grace so far. She was never A-list, but she was never like Z-list like she is right now.
What the hell has she written in the last 5-10 years that wasn't something that got canceled and then she threw a temper tantrum? She was never a sales juggernaut by any stretch, but has she done anything that's lasted more than six issues in the last 10 years? She doesn't seem terribly interested in sticking around on anything.
Now, she is out there not completely confirming that she's coming to the X-Men office, but we kind of all know that at this point. She did tweet some stuff out there after the solicitation went out there and people kind of caught on what was going on with Free Comic Book Day, saying, love you all. Hope you all have a fantastic week. I am working on one of the most thrilling comics projects I've ever been a part of with incredible collaborators. And it's like rainbows everywhere I look. I always enjoy making comics, but this is special. Let's be happy. I just can't be happy knowing that Gail Simone's taking over X-Men, Doc. No way.
I guess it could be worse. I'm not sure how, but I guess it could.
How could it be worse?
Well, here's the thing. It is theoretically possible. You could end up with Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossmo as the creative team of the flagship X-Men book. That would actually be worse.
I would say Capwolf and the Howling Commandos 1 and 2 are better than anything that Gail Simone's written in the last 7 years of her career.
I understand that.
It'd be a step up,
I entirely disagree, but that's a limited
you're right.
series.
It's not Vita Ayala taking over X-Men. It's not Leah Williams taking over X-Men or T. Franklin or even Steve Fox or Steve Orlando and some of the other really, really bad writers out there.
No,
but it's not that big of a step up. She's in that peer group, at least to me.
She's not that far removed from that group. And I don't think any of them could be the head of X or even the flagship writer of, well, honestly, anything other than.
I don't think Steve Fox could be the flagship writer of his own Substack newsletter. I don't think Leah Williams could be the head writer of her own fucking Twitter feed and actually get anyone to fucking care.
Yeah, I mean, am I disappointed that you're going to end up with Gail Simone in this position? Yes, this is a brand that has been utterly and completely demolished in the past 3 years. I put a lot of that blame on Jonathan Hickman himself. He set this shit up, and ruined the brand because he was taking a big risk whenever he started making all the changes that he did to the X-Men brand. There was a lot of ways that it could go wrong, and it did in every single conceivable way. Anyone that has any possibility of having a career beyond this next 12 months wouldn't take this job. Now, Gail, she has the opportunity here to
become relevant again.
To become relevant, to resurrect her career. If she can somehow resurrect the X-Men, I don't think she has ever been equipped to do it in her entire career. Even at, back on her Birds of Prey era, when she was relatively new into the industry and was a breath of fresh air, or whatever the fuck they were saying about her in the 90s whenever she first came in. I mean, she's slightly less incompetent than the folks that are currently there.
The reaction has been mixed, but certainly more leaning towards this is an enormous mistake. But if you go to Reddit, there's a post on it talking about this, and apparently like the Reddit people have like banned anybody that might have an opinion against this. And it was really funny to look at. There was one I'll talk about just as what people that are trying to defend this move are actually saying. And it ain't much of a defense. This is what Mateo Lucas said on Reddit. Feel like she hasn't reached anywhere close to her best work, Birds of Prey and Secret Six, in years, but her newer stuff has been mostly fine or inoffensive, and that's miles better than the worst X-Men has offered. Her Domino really didn't feel like Domino, but it was a fun little story about a silly, horny special agent I guess could work with the right X-Men. I've seen her tweet that she hates Cyclops. I mostly took them as jokes, but I hope she either doesn't write him or doesn't make him the butt of every joke to troll people on Twitter. Stories motivated by Twitter spats are always crap, and I like Cyclops. Would I prefer to see her write X-Factor from the comedic angle, or X-Force to maybe reach those Secret Six heights again, exploring more underground characters, which is her strength? But I'm open-minded. At best, expect a really great story. At worst, expect some silly, dumb, horny throwaway story. I think they've got a little bit backwards there, Doc. I think at best you can expect some silly, dumb, horny throwaway story. And at worst, I think you could see a further bottoming out of X-Men from a quality and storytelling standard, with her in charge not being anywhere close to what her prime was, and her prime wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's where I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a dumb throwaway story that fills some time, doesn't further damage the brand, and maybe, gets a little bit of the fun back, and not like a bunch of people like eating pastries in a fucking field while talking about their feelings kind of fun, because that shit wasn't fun for fucking anybody. Maybe go on a little stupid adventure. I don't think even Gail Simone is capable of doing worse than the current, but I feel like not improving upon it might actually be making it worse, because even then, changes in leadership, changes in writing can't fix the brand. That might be a death knell for it.
I don't think that Gail Simone is capable of writing anything close to her best works like Birds of Prey and Secret Six. Gail Simone has always really leaned heavily on good, solid dialogue. And it was a little bit too funny and a little cutesy-wootsy, but it was always pretty solid. And I will say this, I do think Gail Simone has been hurt more than most people by the advent of social media and kind of taking over conversations, to where I don't think that she's capable of writing dialogue that good anymore, just because of the way she's been affected. She's almost like a new person now.
Yeah, I mean, Gail's work has been completely infected with Twitter speak. When she was in the X office and was on Deadpool, and then she was on, I think it was Agent X, it fit her kind of cutesy-wootsy Twitter speak and Joss Whedon-esque dialogue. It fit her very well. I don't think it works for X-Men, and I do think that her more recent work in comics has been, I mean, she's got TikTok brain. It's not how any actual person speaks to other people. I don't know, she may be one of those people that outside of conventions since COVID hasn't really been in public and, talked to normal people in normal people settings. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that, but she seems like the type that would have been, that still 3 years later, almost 4 years later, is hiding in their house. That's the impression that I get of her. I could be entirely wrong. So she might have been completely damaged. And maybe if she gets the fuck out of the house and goes and talks to normal people outside of a comic convention and outside of other TikTok brained, Twitter addled comic book pros and has a normal conversation with the fucking butcher at the grocery store or some waiter at a diner, maybe she'll start getting back to being able to have decent dialogue. But until then, no, she's suffering from way too much Twitter brain.
And if you are an X-Men fan thinking that everything is going to change, they're going to get back to basics, they're going to slim down the line, and Tom Breevort is on top of it, if Gail Simone isn't enough to let you know that that is not exactly what's going on here. He also talked on his Substack recently saying X-Men fans that are looking for a lot of change, getting back to basics, are in for a world of disappointment. I broke it all down right here, talking about what Breevort had to say and what it all kinds of means. There's also a link in the video description.